Okay. Um, Formally, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 12th meeting of the Economic Development Committee for the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brian Levine. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs for the Chamber, and we've already done introductions. And I don't know if we just want to jump in now that you've joined us.
Well, sure. I just want to say hello, everyone. Apologies for being a little bit late this morning. Ken, welcome. It's so great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. If I could, can I give a brief introduction, or has that been done?
It has not been done.
Okay,
Let's do
fantastic.
it.
So Ken, we're delighted to have you here. I'd like to introduce to everyone we all know that there's a really important role that local government plays in economic activity, creating, spurring job creation, shaping our business climate. And leading that effort for our county executive, Marc Elrich, is Assistant Chief Administrative Officer Ken Hartman. And Ken brings about 30 years of experience to the county, having served most recently as Director of Strategic Partnerships with the Office of the County Executive. And before joining the Office of the County Executive in 2021, he served as the Director of the Bethesda-Chevy Regional Services area for 13 years. And I think, Ken, you are also a graduate of Virginia Tech. Is that right? Got your master's?
Yeah, my undergrad is from the University of Maryland and my master's is from Virginia Tech.
So I say that because I was at Virginia Tech for 17 years, and you got your degree in public administration from the program that I used to chair and is part of the School of Public and International Affairs. So I was wondering what year you got your degree.
It was a very long 6 years, 2006.
Okay, so I was there when you were getting your degree. So I don't know if we overlapped or not, but it's great to have you. So Ken, welcome. We're very excited to hear about what you're working on and the vision. And I'm sure we'll have a robust and interesting conversation after you share some thoughts and ideas with us first. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And I do have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this will work the first try. And I will hit present. So just I'll zoom through this because it's just help us frame our discussion. There are 6 major areas. By the way, good morning, everyone. Feel very happy to be here now, and I know I have so much to talk about. I just want to dive right in, and we'll leave time for questions at the end. So as far as our economic development has remains a major priority of this administration and past administrations as well. We have settled on some very important priorities as we move forward. I'll go through them. They're on this page, but we'll go into more detail as we get through the presentation. There are multiple legs of economic prosperity, from our workforce to strategic opportunities to direct business support, and also investing in attraction, getting businesses interested in locating to Montgomery County and working with our businesses here to make sure they stay and thrive in Montgomery County. When I talk about direct business support, I start with the Business Center. The Business Center is a team of outreach specialists within county government. They're managed by Gene Smith, who reports to Judy Costello. Some of you may know Judy. She's our special projects manager in the Office of the County Executive. This is a team of individuals who do direct engagement with our retail storefront businesses. They go door to door. They handle questions and concerns. They also manage a menu of training opportunities, of engagement opportunities, and they also help us manage what we call our innovation ecosystem, and we'll get into that later in this presentation. As you know, there are a number of nonprofits that work with us: Latino Economic Development Corporation, among others, the Black Collective, who help us with that direct engagement. Something that I'm proud of is our Business District Grant Program. Many of you know we have now we have 4 urban districts. 4 urban districts in Bethesda, Silver Spring, Wheaton, and now Friendship Heights. And these are districts that have an organization that helps promote, maintain as livable, prosperous urban centers. Friendship Heights started as a grant recipient under this program. They've now become somewhat of a hybrid. The Friendship Heights Alliance is the organization that manages this urban district. They are a bid incorporated on the DC side of Western Avenue, who, under contract with our urban district, provides the same services on the Maryland side. And along with all of this activity, all these direct supports, we have grant programs under our Economic Development Fund. Many of you are familiar with the MOVE grant. The MOVE grant is a grant available for businesses that are expanding their square footage in Montgomery County. And now, thanks to the leadership and partnership with Council President Andrew Friedson, we have a job creation fund, which stay tuned, in the next few months, we'll be talking about how businesses can take advantage of this grant fund. And this grant fund is available to businesses that are adding to their workforce. It offers a minimum of grant of $10,000 or more for businesses that are in our life sciences, technology, nonprofits, foundations, trade corporations, corporate headquarters. It is something that we want to target towards strategic businesses in the county for high-paying jobs. Moving on, and I prepared this slide with Anne in mind. We have a number of partners in Montgomery County, and we are seeking to continue to expand the job training workforce development opportunities we have. We have a lot of businesses that need very talented people working for them, and we have a lot of great partners, starting with the universities at Shady Grove, Montgomery College. Susan, this is a shout out for you, and WorkSource Montgomery, who are working very hard and in partnership with people on this call and other businesses to provide the workforce they need to staff the jobs that they're creating. And to this constellation, we were able, council help fund the BioHub Maryland concept that you'll hear more about in the coming weeks. This is a partnership with the Maryland Tech Council to bring a internationally known training program to the DC area centered in Montgomery County. And they specifically wanted this life sciences training program to be available in Montgomery County at the heart of the regional and national health biopharma sector. So I put the website there. We'll talk more about it. I'm sure the Tech Council would love to come talk to you about more about this program and what it has to offer to businesses. Since coming to office, the county executive has advocated for bringing a research institute to Montgomery County that supports our strategic industries. And we were fortunate to unveil and get support for the Institute for Health Computing, which is a University of Maryland research facility located now on Executive Boulevard in North Bethesda. This is a partnership between Montgomery County and three University of Maryland campuses: University of Maryland, University of Maryland, Baltimore, University of Maryland Medical System. This center focuses on AI, virtual learning, bringing the power of computing to help us solve our medical needs. They also bring a very large database from the University of Maryland Medical System that is among the most diverse databases in the country, and this allows them to run virtual trials on medications or procedures to support our local businesses. And again, University of Maryland sought this. They wanted to locate the facility in Montgomery County in our biopharma corridor. Investing in business attraction, retention, and marketing remains a very, very high priority of ours, and there's a lot of room to improve. I listed a few partners and programs on this. One that you may not know about most folks, I hope, know about Visit Montgomery, which is Kelly Groff is the executive director. They focus on what makes Montgomery special as a place to visit. And when you visit, hopefully you look at coming for longer periods of time, maybe living, maybe bringing your business here. So we see them as a vital partner in telling our story and marketing Montgomery County. I don't know if folks know that the Marriott Conference Center in North Bethesda actually is the Montgomery County Conference Center. Marriott is our partner in operating the conference center, which is intended to serve our business community as a venue for events. And Gigi, I know we've had conversations, and we're looking forward to partner on the next Public Safety Awards at our facility, working in partnership with Marriott to do that. And then on this constellation, probably the most important partner is the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. I'll go more into the detail later when we talk about opportunities, but this organization is vital. They are fully funded by Montgomery County, by the taxpayers of Montgomery County. We truly need them to be focused on the direct contact with businesses in the region whose leases might be expiring, businesses nationally who may be looking for new places to be in a center of activity like the DC area, like Montgomery County, and working internationally to raise our profile. And I put Crossvines here because I don't know if many folks know about this facility. If you don't, you should plan to have dinner out there. It's out in Poolsville. Crossvines is a partnership with the public-private partnership. Our revenue authority was very instrumental in kicking this off. It is a business incubator, restaurant and venue, event venue, and it was built around the idea that we have this industry, this wine industry in Montgomery County. We have a lot of grape growers, and instead of sending their grapes out of the county to be pressed and to be bottled into wine, the thought was, why don't we build our own facility in Montgomery County to serve our local businesses that are in this space? And it's been quite a success. And it's actually a very lovely place to have dinner. It's very highly rated. So recommend people, chamber members, check them out. They're at crossvines.com. Providing world-class services to support entrepreneurs. These are people who are looking to start businesses. We have a number of great innovation centers. They could be better. We've thought long and hard, and I'll come back to that at the end of the conversation about what we need to do to take these to the next level, to take what we have as 3 innovation centers in Gaithersburg, or in Germantown, which is focused on life sciences, Rockville, which is focused on high tech, and Silver Spring, which is focused on minority-owned businesses, and create a world-class, nationally known a model that we want to bring people to when they visit Montgomery County. To this constellation, we're now adding a partnership with the Henry Jackson Foundation this year. The council funded our partnership with the Henry Jackson Foundation, which is a organization based here in Montgomery County, chartered by Congress, whose job it is to support military medicine and innovation in that space. These innovation labs will be in Rock Spring, but it essentially creates a new life sciences lab incubator space. And it's a great partnership, and we can talk more about it as we're getting ready to launch and announce the next step. And then finally, again, thanks to partnership with Council President Andrew Friedson, we were able to secure funding for innovation and founders grant programs at the county. This is $10 million intended to support small businesses that have a concept. The innovation grant is intended to support small businesses that have a concept that needs to go to market. And there is something called the Death Valley, where a new entrepreneur or a new business is trying to gather the capital they need to advance their product to the manufacturing stage. This is a point where many businesses fail at. So this grant fund is intended to provide support for those businesses along that way. And we'll be partnering with MCDC on evaluating the proposals that come in the door and making recommendations for funding. On the founders side, it's very similar. It's more targeted towards minority-owned businesses, small businesses that are using technology to grow, that need that investment in technology to grow. I think the example we often give is Mas Panadas, where they were the company was seeking funding for infrastructure improvements to take them to the next level of growth, and they've been quite a success story. Strategic redevelopment opportunities, and Ashley, you might recognize this image. We are partnering with a number of developers in a number of different locations to MCB would be one in White Oak. MCB has breathed new life into the Viva White Oak development. They are serious about breaking ground, and we are serious about supporting them, and have been in a number of conversations with them, not only on the use of the county funds that have been set aside to support the infrastructure for the development, but also on how to make pieces of the project work. Many developers in the county are, like we do, struggle with the cost of infrastructure, and we are actively exploring how to get past that initial capital mountain that developers face when they have to build infrastructure where none exists now. Other examples, of course, are North Bethesda. Stay tuned. In the next few weeks, we'll be unveiling the next step of our partnership with WMATA at the North Bethesda Metro Station. So stay tuned for that. So this is where I want to get into our conversation, if we can. So all that, everything I've talked about are things we are engaged with today. We were able to move forward with new initiatives thanks to the budget and the council's support, but there remain, I would put 3 buckets out there of areas that the county executive has identified, and there is general agreement that we need to do more and better. The first one is this renewed focus on strategic attraction and retention. We've been in conversations with MCDC and with the council all through the budget process that we need an economic development corporation that is focused on those direct engagement of businesses in our area in Montgomery County, whose leases might be expiring in 2 years, to make sure we're talking with businesses in our strategic industries, because that's what we're known for. And our strategic industries now are life sciences, the biopharma, high tech, and hospitality. In every single document we've looked at over the last 10 years, those are the 3 major industries that where we have the largest number of corporate headquarters and the largest potential for growth. So not only that, but adding to that, direct contact. Many folks on this call may have received calls from Virginia or other states. Hey, come check us out. We ought to be doing the same thing. We ought to be identifying those companies that are best fits for Montgomery County, whose leases might be expiring in their markets, and saying, hey, we're the 3rd largest biopharma center of the nation. We are growing. Unlike the top 2 biopharma centers, we have square footage which is available for either conversion or move in today. And then there's the international profile. We've received a phenomenal response to our international trips over the last 2 years. Our trips have included Taiwan, Korea, India. The value of those trips is that we have an enormous diaspora here in Montgomery County, in those communities. People here who have contact there. And when we go on, when we have gone on those trips with the county executive and with MCEDC, that is our best selling point. That Montgomery County is one of the most diverse places in the nation, maybe in the world, and we have enormous infrastructure here within those communities. And look at what we have to offer in our 270 corridor, and what's the excitement, what's happening in White Oak, and the major institutions that are here to support business. Next bucket would be ecosystems. This is our thought with our incubators is they're fine, they could be great, and we want to go from fine to great. And our competitor locations, Cambridge, Philadelphia, even Frederick, have top-notch wraparound innovation centers where an entrepreneur can come in the door and receive a great deal of world-class education, networking opportunities, and facilities. Thankfully, the council funded $3 million to improve our incubator spaces, but we still lack that internationally known, that nationally known private operator that could be our partner and operate our centers. Government can't do everything, and certainly supporting entrepreneurs in an innovation system, it's something that we would like to outsource. And so stay tuned. We'll continue our conversations with the council on that. And again, workforce development. We got a lot of folks. Dr. Kadamian, Ann, and I have talked about, and I've talked with WorkSource Montgomery, that we have a lot of folks in this space providing training, and how do we bring it all together in one place? So a business looking for training for employees or potential employees, or a young person who's looking for training to get into the jobs that are available, can go down the list and say, oh, WorkSource has this, Montgomery College has that, University of Shady Grove has this, and maybe they can easily find where they land. And then last, I'm not going to go into this in much detail, but infrastructure is a major issue. Like our private developers, the county has a number of constraints on how much infrastructure we're able to build. And we're struggling with how do we build out the vision that we have for Montgomery County, not just plan by plan, but major transformational visions like the rapid transit system, which a lot of future development, which could unlock a lot of future development. We can get into a discussion in other venues about that. I'm happy to stop and take any questions that folks might have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, if that's okay, and I'll look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ken. That was terrific. I think that's one of the best presentations I've seen of integrating all these pieces into one strategic vision. Super helpful, really helpful. So questions, everybody, please jump in.
I'm sure Ashley's got a question for me. I'm just waiting to hear it.
Hey, good morning. It's Will Ellis from Pepco. Thank you for taking your time to speak to us today, as well as the presentation. A lot of great information. I'm just curious, any thoughts on data centers? There's so much energy sort of regionally, Fairfax County, Loudoun County, Prince George's County, related to wanting or not wanting to attract data centers, what it has on the commercial tax bracket, and how it's helping balancing budgets. I'm curious to know if you will have sort of a position or strategy around attracting data centers, green data centers, just overall thoughts on where you see that vision for the county.
Thank you, Will, for that question, and I appreciate it. And there actually, there's a meeting this afternoon about data centers and what's our policy for moving forward with them. I know it's something we are interested in exploring. It is something that we need to figure out how to unlock, because it is an opportunity. Um, uh, Certainly, we see other jurisdictions thriving with them. There are so I'll have more to report after this afternoon's meeting. I know we are very focused on energy usage. Many of you know we council and the executive passed Building Energy Performance Standards Act 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So we'd love to engage with you, Will, on how to use these facilities as a way to generate renewable energy. You know, there's a lot of rooftop, so maybe solar is part of these, can be part of these projects to help offset the impact on the grid, so to speak. But otherwise, we're very open to this discussion, and we'll be in a meeting this afternoon with council members on it.
And just to follow up on that, do you get any feedback on Montgomery County's energy tax and how it relates to data centers or just the economy in general?
Not from folks in our local chamber community, we do hear about it. We honestly do not see it as a barrier to competitiveness. When you look at our competitors, especially those in Northern Virginia, those who have differential rates between commercial and residential, and those who have gross receipts taxes on their business community. Even with the energy tax, we believe we remain highly competitive in the region and nationally. And remember that our energy tax is also paid by the federal government installations, very large installations that use power here in the county. So it's not something we've heard as a barrier to companies moving here, especially when you look at the entire tax burden on commercial taxpayers.
And
as a follow, I want to do a follow-up to that question. So, but you say that the energy tax, you don't see that as a barrier, but that does beg the question: are there other tax or business climate issues that you do see as unhelpful, as a barrier to attracting companies? Because it'd be useful for us as an advocacy organization to be working with you to address the barriers, because it's slowing us up.
So I'll give you three things. The first is speed to market. How do we? I was in a meeting just the other day at planning about how do we speed up review of especially life sciences projects. There we have a biohealth campus process, which is 65 days to approval, which has never been used. We created it to be used with Amazon and other big companies potentially located in Montgomery County that haven't happened. We want to explore with the council, how do we widen that out, the eligibility for that process? Because the getting from concept to use and occupancy permit is something we need to look at every opportunity to streamline. The second opportunity, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. The other, I'll jump to the third one. Well, hopefully the second one will catch up. The third one was an issue that we heard at the MCDC board meeting a couple of weeks ago, which was for companies that are looking to locate to Maryland. Unlike DC, unlike Northern Virginia, if you're looking to move to Maryland, Maryland requires that you create a new federal tax ID. And somehow we have to work with our folks in Annapolis to change that requirement. It's so much easier for a company to locate on the Virginia side or DC, less of a hassle. So as many hassles as we can reduce, the better. And the second issue the second opportunity is just have to catch up. It's slipped my mind. But we'll have
one of the things that I have heard is an issue, and it's not only a county issue, it's a state issue, is income tax. That you know, and in some conversations, the corporate tax, but income tax, when executives have their accountants look, I mean, it's not only a state issue, it's a state issue, plus we have a piggyback tax here. But I'm just curious what you hear about that.
We've seen studies. You know, the DC government does studies every couple of years on tax competitiveness for their own use, and we've been able to look at that study, and they do both business taxes and income taxes. And I'm not sure. A year ago, I would tell you I'm not sure where we stand in that, but with all the tax increases locally on the other side of the river, I'm pretty confident that we remain the lightest burden. I think the last study I saw was 22, which showed DC study, which showed on 3 different income tiers, low, middle, and high, Montgomery County was the lowest tax burden on families and households. So I know this was a big pressure in the Leggett administration with the millionaires tax. I'm not sure yet, you know, how that compares today, and analysis would need to be done. A lot of time has elapsed, and there are a lot more taxes in our competing jurisdictions than there were then.
I wanted to say, applaud you on something too before I turn my mic off again. But and that is to say, I am happy to hear that you all are suiting up and you're going to aggressively go after other companies. Because as long as I've been in this job for 17 years and 21 at the chamber, I've had our companies call us and say, I got a call from Fairfax Economic Development Authority, blah, blah, blah. They even wanted our chamber to send our foundation program over there, the one that trains veterans. So they are some kind of aggressive, you know, for all the conversation about let's play nicely in the sandbox. Terrific. It's a great idea. But what I actually see is pretty aggressive action on their part to recruit folks. So, and it's not just Fairfax, but I mean, just in general, our companies get calls all the time. So I am very happy to hear that you and MCEDC are you know, taking that challenge on because it's an opportunity. Why not? So I'm glad to hear about that. So I just wanted to applaud that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gigi.
Thanks, Gigi. Ashley has her hand up. Ashley?
Thank you. Good morning again, Ken.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you for the MCB shout out. They have been super happy, I think, with how engaged the administration has been. And so thank you for that. Also, just a thank you to you. I feel like your portfolio has so many big things in it: economic development, transportation, utility stuff, telecom stuff. And so, you know, I personally appreciate how responsive you are to questions, concerns, whatever it is. And so thank you for that. I wanted just a quick question, and I think it was a follow-up to your comment about building energy performance standards. I know that language was included in the state budget when it passed earlier this year, requiring some additional study and looking at certain things with regard to building energy performance standards at the state level. And I was wondering how, if at all, that would impact or inform how the county intends to move forward.
So the issue of the county's building energy performance standards law and regulations, and what the state is doing has been something that's been discussed now for the last 3 years. Back when the council passed the previous council passed the law, because now we have a whole new council. The majority are brand new. The decision then was, this is too important to wait for the state process. And if the state process catches up to us one day, we'll take a look at that. But let's proceed. Let's continue to be a leader in this space. We are, and the law that was passed gives a schedule for when things start to happen. our regulations have been sent over to the county council. The Transportation Environment Committee is doing its due diligence, meeting with lots of stakeholders, looking at what the issues are, and will provide us with feedback on things we need to change in the regulations. But I've not heard an argument for we ought to stop and wait to see what the state does. In fact, I've heard state folks have been talking to our folks about how best to approach this. The major difference, of course, is I don't believe the state has a process yet for new buildings. The county, a while back, before they passed BEPS, passed requirements for new buildings. So you're having buildings coming online in the state that are going to be quite new and aren't meeting what would be standards that the state could be passing. So I don't know what the future is going to be on the state level, and but I think the sentiment among our electeds has been we should continue. We should be cautious, though. We should make sure that there are options for folks to finance, to create a schedule. This should not be, you should not have an inspector show up and say you have 2 months to fix your systems. They ought to things like financing, providing bonding capacity to the Green Bank has been talked about, which county executive supports, to allow the Green Bank to support our industries and our businesses. And we're working very closely with Chair Glass and the T&E committee on the feedback we're getting through the listening sessions and how to plug that back into the regulations.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Ashley. Monica.
Good morning. Good morning, Ken. Monica Marquina, Director of Government Affairs for WCC Water. I just wanted to highlight an amazing partnership with Montgomery County. I know Gigi said that, economic development doesn't have any borders or boundaries, right? And so we have partnered with Montgomery County as we look to our bioenergy Piscataway project in Accokeek. It's an amazing facility. And one of the benefits is going to be producing renewable natural gas, and it's going to be fueling Montgomery County ride-on buses. And so as we think of innovative ways, we go into the future of Montgomery County and just really the growth and prosperity of Montgomery County, there's so much opportunity of how we can all work together to meet common goals, right? So we're talking about green jobs and again, finding innovative ways to, we'd like to say, turn poop to power. I know it's not fun to say, but it's just really what it is. And it's an amazing, amazing project. So as we move closer to that grand opening, you'll hear more, we'll share more with the membership, but I wanted to highlight that and also Ken's support, especially through the new administration with General Manager Keisha Powell. Ken has been extremely welcoming to the entire team, and we've worked on many, many issues. And so I just wanted to highlight that amazing partnership with Montgomery County. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Monica. And I can tell you when the two words that can excite the county executive are anaerobic digester. And when you guys announced that,
It's being fed.
The
little monster is being fed.
because here we're looking at the challenge of how to reduce the waste stream. And I know that the executive on a vacation, not taxpayer paid, to the West Coast, took time to see anaerobic digesters operated by solid waste authorities out there, where they take the food waste and they turn it into energy. So very interesting stuff.
Mark. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lowell. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I should raise my hand. I didn't do that. I'm curious that I manage a group here at M&T Bank, and I have a team, a group in Virginia and in Prince George's County and here in Montgomery County. And I'm interested in your perspective around the tax situation, because I think there's a perception out there that Montgomery County is the highest tax, and I don't know that people are out there looking at some chart saying, hey, maybe that's not true. So I don't know if it's a marketing issue, or but it's clearly a perception issue because I hear that pretty much all the time. There's a perception Montgomery County is not business friendly and it is the highest tax place to do business. And so if that is, if that's just a false perception, I think it probably is a marketing issue that should be addressed. And I guess I know the reduction in the budget with the economic development, all that too, just kind of feeds into that. So I'm just curious if you think that's an issue or if that's something that's being addressed.
So absolutely, that is a false statement. We are nowhere near the highest tax jurisdiction in this region, especially for commercial properties and businesses. Don't look at our data, look at the District of Columbia's data. When you hear the county executive talk about differential tax rates, he's advocating for us to come to parity with our Northern Virginia competitors, not to increase taxes past what they already levy on their businesses. I think we, in many of our marketing needs, we get stuck in our own dialogue and things we know or things we experience. The difference between Montgomery County and Northern Virginia historically has been the county has been very receptive to even playing fields between commercial and private properties in funding important infrastructure needs, whereas Virginia doesn't have the luxury of being able to finance their roads. All their roads are state roads. And so the gridlock that created in Northern Virginia created that need for the business community to work with the governments, the local governments, to lobby for the differential taxing that they have, the taxing districts that they have, because really nothing's moving. Nothing had moved in Northern Virginia, and they need to unlock a lot of density, a lot of capacity, and transportation improvements. We have not been there in a long time. We are rapidly getting to where they are, which is with state budget picture, state transportation funds. You've read a lot about what's available, what's not, and our own needs to build our own internal mobility infrastructure. Now has us in a place where we need to seriously consider. I wouldn't say matching Virginia, but starting to go down that road. If we're going to unlock and continue to grow, we need to be serious about that conversation. But no, that premise that we are a high tax zone in the especially in the DC region is absolutely false. If you're comparing us with Austin, Texas, maybe that's true, but we don't consider Austin, Texas, which is a relatively new and still growing county with a large but if you compare us with our competitors in Boston and elsewhere, the West Coast, especially in the biopharma industry, we are by far much more competitive when it comes to business taxes.
Thanks, Ken, and thanks, Lowell. Mark?
Yeah, thanks. Ken, really appreciate this discussion. My name is Marc Scarano. I'm the new Senior Economic Development Manager at PEPCO. And I was hired last August to relaunch economic development at PEPCO. And I think that just shows the seriousness of our execs in wanting to work with you folks on the county level, as well as your economic development groups, all of them, on increasing jobs in Montgomery County. One thing I did notice about your discussion that I really appreciate is that it wasn't just focused on business attraction. And that is an important part of what the future of any good qualified economic development activity is. But you also touched on workforce development, infrastructure, access to capital came up, entrepreneurship support. All of those holistically are part of any qualified larger economic development strategy. So really appreciate those comments and that larger view of economic development. Although I don't want to certainly lower the emphasis on attracting business, because I think Montgomery County's got a lot of opportunities there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And if folks don't already aren't already aware, and I think Gigi, you and I have talked about this. The council is now looking at the Great Seneca Science Corridor Master Plan. And in preparation for that master plan, the planning department engaged with a company called ESI to do a life sciences competitiveness analysis for Montgomery County, and not just Great Seneca, but the county as a whole. And I encourage you to look at that report, because that report does exactly what was just mentioned. It does exactly what our administration has been looking at, which is a multifaceted approach to economic development that incorporates all of these, placemaking to innovation, supporting innovation, to creating a local alliance of higher ed, industry leaders, government, to really and also zoning, into how do we continue to thrive in this space? Well, it's not just making phone calls, although that's important, but it's also building the place that companies want to be at, with the infrastructure and the ecosystem that they need to bring in the talent, and bringing the subcontractors, or the other tenants that one day will inhabit their square footage in nearby buildings. So that's an important thing to remember.
Thanks, Mark and Ken. We have someone with a phone number, 240-856, with your hand up. Go ahead, please. Introduce yourself too.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry Pepco is taking over this conversation, but again, Danielle Friedman with Pepco. I just wanted to, Ken, we've talked a couple times, and you're fantastic. You're just doing all the right things here, and stepping into Jake's shoes with gusto, and we so appreciate your partnership. I wanted to double click on what Monica brought up. I'd be very interested in just learning a little bit more about what's happening there. I'm not sure if that's exactly what's happening out near Dickerson, our Dickerson substation, but I look forward to following up with you and Monica on that, just so we can learn a little bit more. Maybe there's, a way that we can work together just to make sure that all the necessary pieces fall into place over there. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Happy to work with you.
Yeah, we're more than happy, and we've been in conversations with WSC on, and I believe there's a path forward. But I think there's a meeting coming up either today or tomorrow on next steps.
And you have a question in the chat from Susan at Montgomery College. She and we are interested in getting that report on life sciences. Where do we get a hold of that?
I'll send it to you, Brian. It's on the planning website, but I have a copy.
Ken, I'm sorry, just one last question. It's Lowell again. What can we do to help you? What can the chamber do? What can people on this call do to help you make your life easier? Because I think you're aligned in a lot of ways with all of us here. So how can we help you?
I think, Lowell, I think having that ongoing dialogue, the more we can include you and update you on where we are, include you in our discussions and our rollout of some of the new grant programs that the council approved, talk more about the opportunities. Certainly, I know Ann will be happy to have you involved in the workforce ecosystem discussion, having you help us boost the great opportunities that already exist. And I forgot to mention Susan, the Montgomery College East County site. I know it's interim, but I had an opportunity to visit that site recently. That is a phenomenal location in a great place, focused on the right jobs to support that community. So it's that field trips. I would also think the county chamber may be interested in going to see some of these great facilities. We did a eye-opening tour with the lieutenant governor of our life sciences industry, going up Rockville Pike to Great Seneca. And it's just amazing the jobs and the companies and the assets there are in that corridor. And I won't talk about the snafus in the itinerary, but otherwise the content was fantastic. And if we had more time to actually visit and see and talk to our partners, I think that paints the picture that it's hard for most people to see.
And I'll jump in with a question. Again, I really appreciated the very integrated vision. I agree with Mark. The holistic approach you're taking to economic development is right on and really exciting. How much of this work is being measured, or how are you thinking about measuring success in this area? And so you have the different opportunity areas. You've identified, kind of what we're doing now, but what we could do better as well. An ecosystem approach. Is the county thinking about a series of goals around these things that we can set out, or is it more, individual organizations doing things and then kind of looking at the aggregate? What's the approach to thinking about not necessarily accountability, although I think that's important, but achievement? Like, how are we doing in this space? How are we growing? Where are we growing? What kind of goals or metrics are we thinking about here?
Yeah, I love that question, and because it's exactly an area I believe we need to do a better job at. I've been in a lot of conversation with folks in the last few weeks as we draft the FY25 contract for MCEDC. Like, what are the metrics that matter? Not just the outputs, but the outcomes. We've just started having that conversation about the innovation, about the workforce ecosystem. Like, so once we corral it all in one place, how do we then, what are our goals for this cluster, and what do we get out of it? And that's a conversation I'd like to continue with you. I think there are obvious metrics out there on the project approval side, the things we know, right? It's speed to market is the most important thing there. And we've looked at how other counties met the metrics they have. I don't know if folks know that in Fairfax County, they have two metrics for the Fairfax County EDA: jobs created through direct effort and square footage leased through direct effort. And that's elegantly simple. But how do we get from where we are now, which is redefining a mission and focus, to that elegantly simple, here's what you're supposed to do, now show us how you did that. And let's have that conversation, especially when we talk about the workforce space. Be very valuable to all of us. And of course, we can't forget that at the end of the day, all of this is going to be done with the county council. And so working with Chair Fanny Gonzalez on what we expect, it's a shared responsibility, not just the county executives, to develop these expectations and outcomes and ultimately metrics.
Danielle, do you still, your hand is up? Did you have another question?
No, ma'am. I will lower that. Thank
Okay,
you.
no worries. I just wanted to be sure if you had a follow-up or something. Other questions for Ken or thoughts for Ken?
I have a thought.
Yeah,
Yep, I got a
please.
thought. What else is new, right? I have a thought. I have to say, first of all, I love this conversation. I love this topic. And I think you hit on something, the two things that you've said over many of the things, but the subject of Fairfax. When I first came to the chamber, I met with Jerry Gordon, who was born and raised in Rockville, Maryland, but ran the Fairfax Economic Development Authority. And I see Mark nodding like, because he knew us really well. And I said, well, how did you do this? And it mattered that he had a staff that was on commission, which of course was not possible here because, if you're a government employee, I don't think you can earn commission. Anyhow, we don't have that issue anymore. with Economic Development Authority separate, I suppose. But he just said that it was very much about the speed to market. And you're trying to address that, because I think it's the million little stories about, the fire marshals, had us walking in circles. I mean, that was infamous, right? I mean, for as long as you've been around, a long
those
time, because I
stories
knew
stick.
you many jobs ago. So, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
true?
and they stick, right? And those stories stick. They
They
stay.
stick.
They're hard to, when new folks come into our circles, oh yeah, well, we had this issue back with the fire marshal, and that continues to be told. So it's really hard to overcome the bad press once you get it.
Right. It's hard, but it's not impossible. And it starts with creating a new narrative, which is what you're doing, because it's just actions speak louder than words, right? You can say and it doesn't work when I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders as far as, our county is the greatest place to be, right? And we're part of, a global economy, and we've got all this great stuff here, but it is hard to make that case when they say, yeah, but it costs too much because there's a tax on time is kind of the idea. If it's hard to do things, or the county doesn't feel welcoming, that's the culture of yes versus the culture of no, I dare you to be successful. And we're changing that with the kinds of things you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. And it's time, and it's also the cost. If I
Yes.
have to start a project in Montgomery County, and I have to pay this much to get started, and then if I go to Virginia, I pay this much to get started, it's a big difference. And we need to be looking at those finer grain competitiveness.
And I know that there was a biotech company that wanted to land in Montgomery County, I don't know, a year or so ago. They ended up in Frederick. Okay, they're at least at Metro Maryland. They're in the region, but they couldn't get the project up out of the ground fast enough because of our rules. I don't know which set of rules got in their way, but I know that it had to do with being able to get the building up. And I know that was frustrating for everybody involved in the county, in Montgomery County, and then we lost that opportunity. And anyway, but we can't be the ones that lose those opportunities because we can't get out of our own way. So the fact that you're addressing that speed to market, that will change the narrative, because we need good stories. And that is a marketing issue that Lowell is raising, which is this perception thing. Because you lose people with charts and all that stuff. That's just not how if that's not their experience, then it falls on deaf ears. But I think it matters the speed, and then the attitude. We want you here, and we're going to make it work. We're going to get to yes. That's cultural, and it matters. So it's good that you, the county executive, the MCEDC, all the partners are changing that narrative.
Gigi, just an interesting story to close real short. At the last EDC board meeting, we met at the Institute for Health Computing in North Bethesda, and one of the co-directors was asked the question: you've worked in the Boston market, you're familiar with the San Francisco market, the number 2 and number 3, or number 1 and number 2 centers. What's different about Montgomery County? And his answer was your vacancy rate. Like, what? And it's like, you have vacant office ready to move in. Those other 2 areas do not have what you have. So when we see something that, oh my God, we have this enormous vacancy rate we need to fill, that could be an opportunity if we look at it the right way, and if we're reaching out to companies and saying, hey, we have the square footage near Metro, near assets like NIH and the Institute for Health Computing and universities at Shady Grove, you name them, and we can make a deal with you. You can, and Boston, good luck finding the space you need to locate near that center. So interesting. One negative can actually be a positive or an opportunity to when it comes to marketing.
And so interesting, Ken, how that square footage leased is a core metric for Fairfax, and yet, given the pandemic and all these changes, right, that metric, and to your point, it's taking on a different kind of meaning and could actually be flipped in some way. So that's really interesting. Well, I'm gonna thank you, Ken. Thank you so much. I thought this was a fantastic conversation. deeply appreciate this holistic approach you're taking. And as I said at the beginning, this is one of the first times I've seen this kind of a county presented integration of all these pieces, and it's extremely helpful. And I think you're bringing really great leadership to this as well. So thank you. And we look forward to working with you. We look forward to, helping to, bring the business voice and be part of this ecosystem in a really positive way. So with that, I'll ask Brian or Gigi if they have any closing remarks, and we'll let you go.
I'm going to jump in so that Brian can do the final close with our upcoming events as well. But I just want to say thank you. Ken, I've been working with you on and off for a long time. We just won't say to everybody how long, decades. But anywho, and you've always been great to work with, very effective, great, you're a great listener, but you also share so that we understand. I appreciate the meetings you participated in with the chamber execs, because it's a very efficient way to find out what's going on, what's bubbling that isn't out there yet. It's a great intel swapping. So I hope that continues, because it's been very helpful. And I'm very grateful for your focus on economic development, because for us to continue to be the kind of community we want to be, and to be positioned to attract and retain the next generation of talent, which is what actually keeps everybody up at night. And frankly, on a personal level, to keep our kids here. We put a big investment into educating them, right? But it doesn't do any good if we're educating somebody else's workforce. So we need our kids we're investing in them to be educated, but at every level, all the way through. But we need to have the opportunities for them to be willing to stay or to return to Montgomery County because, the future is theirs. And it's our job as stewards of today to make sure that tomorrow is right for them. So the work you're doing is very central to that bigger mission, which for all of us is not only about our livelihoods, but it's personal, because it's our families and we want them to be here. At least I want my 3 millennial kids to be here. So anyhow, but I wanted to say thank you for all you're doing. And I've been grateful for our working relationship.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Ann.
Over to Brian to close us out.
Yeah, Ken, thank you again for your time this morning. I really enjoyed this meeting and this discussion. But we definitely at the chamber here been taking advantage of our partners in Montgomery County government this week. We've had all 3 of our committees through a quirk of scheduling, that quirk being that we had our annual dinner last week. So all 3 committees are meeting this week on consecutive days. Yesterday, we had a great discussion with Montgomery Planning about the 4-year growth and infrastructure plan. And then just for everyone on the call, if you want to make it a trifecta, tomorrow our Legislative Affairs Committee meets. We'll be featuring John and Ashley, who are on the call today. We're having a sort of 2-part discussion. One on the election, mostly congressional stuff. We'll talk about that, have a candid conversation about that and what it means. And then we're also going to sort of break down and talk about the highlights of the Montgomery County capital and operating budgets, which mercifully just passed the county council very recently. So that meeting is at 9 a.m., not 8:30 a.m. We moved it a half hour back. So please take note of that. And with that, Madam Chair and DG and everyone, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of the morning.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.